Welcome back to some more Solidity smart contract vulnerabilities here. And if you made it this far, congratulations. We are at the final vulnerability in this article here. And yeah, I'm pretty excited because what that means on this channel is that we're going to get into getting hands-on with this stuff and exploiting these vulnerabilities hands-on, which I love the hands-on part of this stuff. It's why I do it. It's fun, right? So this one, not very difficult to understand, in my opinion, at least. Tx.Origin Authentication. So Solidity has a global variable, Tx.Origin, which traverses the entire call stack and returns the address of the account that originally sent the call or transaction, right? So using this variable for authentication in smart contracts leaves the contract vulnerable to a phishing-like attack. So think of this kind of like a CSRF a little bit, right? Because basically, you can utilize phishing in a similar way. With CSRF, if someone is logged in, they have access to a certain site, you can induce them to go to your malicious page and then make the request on their behalf. It's kind of like that. In this case, you are exploiting a vulnerable contract that's using Tx.Origin for authentication or something like that, right? And the only difference is they don't have to be authenticated already. They just have to have access to the contract, right? And then when they do that, then you'll be able to get them to authenticate for you, basically on their behalf. So we'll step into the code here if that explanation didn't make sense to you. But yeah, contracts that authorize users Tx.Origin variable are typically vulnerable to phishing attacks, which can trick users into performing authenticated actions on the vulnerable contract. So yeah, looking at this simple contract here, you can see that we have a public address called owner, okay, and a constructor that is of address type _owner is what we're passing in. And, we're just going to set that to owner. Pretty simple constructor, right? And then for the function, we will have a public function called payable. And we will collect ether with this, right? So basically, if we are the owner, Tx.Origin is equal to owner, then we'll transfer the balance to the recipient, which if we're the attacker, then we'll probably set it up that we're the recipient, and we'll have the owner follow our phishing attack, and thus when he runs this contract, it will set his address as the owner. So now that he's the owner, when he runs this, which will probably be through phishing as well, we can get this withdraw all function to run, right? Takes in _recipient as an address variable type, and verifying that he's the owner, transfers the balance. So that's kind of what is going on in this really simple exploit here. And so withdraw all, it's using Tx.Origin. So the attacker creating the attacking contract of the form. So this is what like an attack would look like, for example, right? We would actually have to, as with all the exploits in Solidity, we would have to write an exploit contract for this. And so we could have phishable contract of type phishable, I believe, and attacker of type address, attacker's address to receive the funds, right? So that's how we would actually make sure that we're receiving the funds. You would initiate our attacker address here. And then we'd have the phishable contract and attacker address passed into the constructor. And the function will just be a withdraw all passing in attacker to the phishable contract. So looking back here to this phishable contract, right? And yeah, see, this is how we specify here. And so with that being said, right, attacker is being passed in withdraw all here as recipient. So that's how we're setting it, right? So when we run this contract, we can set, that's the way that we can set our attacker address as the recipient, okay? But it's not actually going to transfer the balance when we do this because we're not the owner. Okay? So with our phishing, we need to entice the victim to become the owner, right? To run this contract, and it'll become the owner, and then to run this function, right? Because once we run this function and we're the owner, then the transfer, and we run it against the owner, I should say, then the owner will transfer their balance to our attacker address, and we get the funds. So not too difficult. Hopefully I explained that well enough for you guys. If not, feel free to, as always, leave some questions down in the comments section below. So in any case, if the victim sends a transaction with enough gas to the attack contract address, we'll invoke fallback function. In turn, calls withdraw all. Okay, yeah, so we're actually invoking the fallback function, which will automatically call the withdraw all with the attack parameter. Okay, so this is a callback function here, withdraw all. So this will get called automatically, basically. So we only need to fish them one time, basically, is the thing, right? Just one time, and then it will call this for us, and the result, withdraw the funds, right? And the rest, you probably understand. We pretty much explained it above. So how do we actually prevent this? Well, we simply do not want to use Tx.Origin for authorization in our smart contracts. So they want to also point out that it doesn't mean that this should never be used. You could definitely use it. It has some use cases. So if you wanted to deny external contracts from calling the current contract, you could implement a require on it in message.sender. And this will prevent immediate contracts being used to call the current contract and limit contract to regular codeless addresses. So there are some use cases, TLDR, I guess. But you don't want to use it for authorization because of the reason we just saw. Now, interestingly enough, no publicized exploits were found, at least at the time of this article. But yeah, hopefully this was easy enough to follow. And I really am excited to get into some of these challenges and exploiting some of these vulnerabilities. So we're going to do exactly that in the next video in this series. And yeah, let me know down in the comment section below if you're enjoying this series so far, and if you are, if you're interested in seeing me take it to that level where I'm actually exploiting some, maybe even deploying some vulnerable contracts on the Ethereum testnet to then exploit. I think that could be cool as well. I'm planning on starting off with some challenges first, at least before I do that. But yeah, let me know if that is something you're interested in, and be sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you haven't already to help out in the algorithms. If you want to catch up on the series, as always, I'll once again just link the videos on screen right now, and see you guys right over there. Thanks for watching.